Hey everybody, Arjuna here, and I got Pixie, Yasmin, and Mars with us again for another wonderful podcast episode, which we're super excited to share with you guys since we went into pretty deep about the angels of omnipotence. We're now working our way along through the ritual, so we are at ritual number 3. And we have some interesting stuff because this is Calvarnia and Armadiel, some spirits that you don't really know about. But anyway, we're talking about the third working. Anyone have any suggestions, or I'm sorry, not suggestions, anyone have any opinions about what the third working is, the background behind it, and whatnot?
Sure. I can pretty much kind of get the conversation going a little bit. Um, so yeah, the second working, whew, tough. Big deal, a lot going on. And you know, after the power switch of the second working, you'll feel very, very good about the fact that this ritual itself is going to be pretty low key. Um, as the chapter suggests, it's aimed at getting more money flowing through your life. It suggests that wealth isn't about saving so much as it is about trusting that money can kind of flow into you and back out, and you can spend it as you will. And so the goal with this ritual here in this part of the journey is to get money flowing in that direction. So the Gallery of Magic chose Calvania as the spirit, uh, the primary spirit work that's going to be for this, that's going to be used for this working. And this Calvania spirit is a spirit that actually works under Armadiel, as Arjuna talked about. And given that the ritual enables you to gain rapid access to this spirit without all the extensive rituals that are usually required, we're going to kind of go into depth a little bit about the steps here, and hopefully kind of shed some light and some ideas and ultimately give you some perspective of what's kind of going on here for this ritual. So Yasmin, did you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the first sigil, or sorry, yeah, the first sigil that kind of it talks, the book tells us to face north, gaze at the seal of calling for a moment, putting our left hand over it, and then saying a few words in Hebrew. What are your thoughts?
Good. So as you probably notice, everybody that works with this book, this talisman is very similar to the one that we used before. So definitely there is another link to the sixth and seventh book of Moses again, because as you see what they're using on the sides again, that is the Ark of the Covenant. And I know you guys know a bit more about that than I, but that is definitely how the talismans in the sixth and seventh books of Moses are structured. And yeah, and then in the middle, there is Hebrew letters, the letters again, different ones than the second working, but therefore, I have not yet found the correct ones. I mean, from the sixth and seventh books of Moses, but I would be pretty sure that there are in there as well. So, and it's kind of funny because the spirits, Calvarnia and Armadiel, they have nothing to do with the sixth and seventh book of Moses. So this seems to be like an starter ritual, maybe similar to just being used as a way to connect to the spirits and to have authority, similar how, in Demons of Magic, there is the ritual to wield power, or for example, in New Avatar Power, before you call any spirit, you always call Raziel. So yeah, it seems to be utilized that way. And I still keep skimming through the sixth and seventh book of Moses, and I can't find those Hebrew letters, but I'm positive that they're in there.
Very interesting. And for those who know little about the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark, we first learned about the Ark in the book of Exodus, chapter 25. It's talked about in verses 10 through 21, where, after the commanding the people to build him a sanctuary, quote, they may dwell among them, and it is commanded. The Ark was also prevalently found
Your connection.
Monic talked about that King Solomon built the Ark of the Covenant. Can you hear me now? Sorry, guys.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, not sure what you last heard there, but we also know that beyond Exodus chapter 25 verses 10 through 21, we also know that the Ark of the Covenant was housed in the temple of God built by King Solomon. There's an interesting chronological discovery here to be made as well. Moses, then David, and then Solomon. These are all family members of the same family, essentially. David,
Oh, wow.
David is the father of. So it's almost as if these family members sort of handed down this intelligence or this technology, or in this case, the Ark of the Covenant, off to each other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have very good news. I found the Hebrew lettering just now. Yay.
Oh, that's awesome.
In page 7, it just confirms by what we were already thinking about that. General citation of Moses on all spirits on page 7 of the 6th and 7th book of Moses. And under that it says, Aheres, Raye, whatever, like, it says all those words, what it actually means. And then it says,
sorry. So what you're saying is that you have.
Can't hear you.
Found in the 6th and 7th book of Moses, you have found the being two. Oh my God! Right. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. You keep delaying a little bit or lagging or something.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So what you're saying is that the scripture that's used in the third working of Wealth Magick, right, Yasmin? You're saying this you found in the 6th or 7th book of Moses?
Yes, the exact one. Yeah, and I'm reading it to you now. General citation of Moses on all spirits. Then it says those Hebrew words. And then it says, these are the high and powerful utterances which Moses employed in the awakening of the Leviathan in order to compel him to serve his Lord. The first cannot be uttered and was used by the first inhabitants of earth as a mighty Lord. The whole is good, but not everyone can obtain it in perfection without severe discipline. And now if we think of that, those other spirits, some say they're demons, some say they are aerial spirits, but they're for sure not angels. So, it has definitely something like having authority, because it says to serve his Lord.
Amazing. That's amazing. Amazing discovery, Yasmin.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised. We went from talking about Calvarnia in Wealth Magick, Calvarnia and Armadiel in Wealth Magick, to going to the Ark of the Covenant and then linking it back to the 6th and 7th book of Moses too. So this symbolism is really deep. It's deep, so deep that it's not even just one reference. It's a reference within a reference. So and Mars mentioned a little bit earlier, getting access to these spirits normally is, so according to Damon Brand, getting access to Calvarnia and by default Armadiel is relatively difficult because there are extensive rituals that go into it. But here we have this talisman that Damon Brand presented us to use, which is called the Seal of Calling, And supposedly, from what we're discussing, this seal of calling is actually a way to get access to these spirits much quicker. And this was discovered through the 6th and 7th book of Moses, which also references back to the Ark of the Covenant too. So that's really, really cool that there's so many deep and underlying links between these two.
And
So
powerful too.
yeah,
Super powerful.
yeah. So
Like
when
they're
we're
getting it
talking,
from like the juiciest source, so to speak. Getting this
Yep.
information.
And
it dates back so far.
Oh my God. Oh my God, guys.
tell us, Yasmin.
what'd you find?
Those words of power are exactly the Hebrew. I mean, yeah, it's kind of common sense, but I can confirm that those are the actual words of power from the 6th and 7th book of Moses. Now that I'm reading it.
And guys, this is the,
Zerayeje, Tejon, Sede, all of this.
yep.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Page 7. Page 7 on in the 6th and 7th book of Moses, the version that I'm using.
Wow.
So, and when you're using the 6th and 7th book of Moses, Yasmin, this specific scripture that you're using here with this, what are you doing essentially? What is the purpose of this? I know we talked about demons of magic, and how you kind of, you have that pre-ritual. It's like that pre-workout for, before the workout. What's this doing?
Well, hold on. I mean, it's a weird book, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't come with a lot of explanations. I can just say that I find the exact thing on page 7.
Well,
And
so what is the ritual called again? You said it's the ritual of what?
you know what? I'm going to try to pull this up on my computer and share the screen. Give me a second, because that's better, because then you actually see it. But it's gonna take a second. Hold on.
No worries. We can talk about kind of the very beginning. Mars kind of touched on while Yasmin's pulling this up on her computer. We kind of talked a little bit about wealth isn't saving so much money as it is about trusting a greater flow of money into your life and back out as you spend it well. And in my personal understanding, like when I used to think of what a millionaire was, I thought it was someone who had $1 million in their bank account. But after understanding a little bit more about how wealth works and how wealth is being built, it's not about saving $1 million and then calling yourself a millionaire. It's about having $1 million worth of assets out there in the market working for you. Your actual money in the bank might not be that much at all, but the power that you have with the money that you have working for you, that is that's wealth, in my opinion and in my experience. So when we're talking about bringing money in so we can spend it correctly, that's what the third working to me means. We're attracting more money that we can utilize in our endeavors. So whether it's investing, whether it's building a business, or whether it's buying and selling a product, like various things like that. So
That's
I'd
funny
agree with that
that
statement.
yeah, me too. And it's funny that you say investing, because I took notes. I was reviewing my notes from when I did the third ritual, which was in like 2019, almost a year ago. But and during that time, I noticed an increase just in income in one of my jobs. But you said investing, and during the third ritual is when I really began investing at all in stocks and just having that growing interest. And now, like, I've not a hugely experienced investor, but I've been doing it for a couple of years. But this was the beginning of it, and when you were talking, Arjuna, it made me think of the saying, "It takes money to make money."
yeah.
Because essentially, you're right. Like, these rituals aren't, or this ritual specifically isn't meant for us to just get quick money to spend, like as quick as we earn it. Like, it doesn't just come and go like that. It's allowing us to create and this access for more wealth, and whether that's like a stepping stone or something. So it's just these like baby steps that we do at first in order to continue to grow and earn more for ourselves and just kind of open that doorway or pathway for the wealth to flow to us. Like this ritual really shifted, I think, kind of enhanced the shift in my thinking about wealth in general. As much so as the daily practice did at the beginning for the first 3 weeks, And just a final note, like on the last day of performing this ritual, actually, I had moved into my new apartment at the time.
Oh yeah.
And like I had started, during the ritual, I was looking for apartments, and then I had taken a note that on the very last day I moved into it. So, which, from there was allowing me to grow and do more and continue to let the results of Wealth Magick unfold too. So I don't know, just to kind of go along with what you were saying. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it was something else. It's kind of like it's a positive, well, I don't know, more so positive ritual than ritual 2, the roller coaster of ritual 2. So
Mars, you got
Definitely a
anything?
roller coaster. Jesus.
Mars, you got
Well,
any perspective on that?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to think about. I love how what Yasmin was talking about. I love how like we're like using this initial talisman here, and sort of like wielding this power to talk to a spirit. I'm not really sure. I'm not so convinced, to be completely honest with you, that the spirit is a demon. I mean,
Mm.
most demons
neither.
don't like, from what I in some of the texts and research that I've done in the past. Usually, when a spirit has an EL at the end or IA at the end of their name, they're typically angelic, and that may not be like the case for most practices, but from what I've seen, that's kind of how it goes. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm no expert.
True.
Yeah.
That's right.
So would you? I mean, I think maybe angelic, maybe genius spirit. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that. See, I don't really get the angelic feeling either from it. Sort of a weird vibe. What do you guys
I
think?
mean, again, this book, the Astrologia Goetia, I can never pronounce it, sorry. They say they're not angels. Some say they're demons, but for sure, they're aerial spirits from the air. I found the page. I'm going to share my screen right now.
Okay.
I also read somewhere too, really quick, that Armadiel was Jinn, and I don't know how credible that page was that I was on, but just to throw another idea out there, because I also don't get an angelic vibe necessarily, more so demonic, but not necessarily straight demonic. I don't know, but I'm not sure if he's a Jinn either, but could be, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely got an interesting vibe. That isn't angelic.
Yeah.
I also noticed that the naming convention was very angelic by nature, like Calvarnia and Armadiel. But you know what else? If a spirit is working under an angel, it could mean one of two things. One is the demon that's opposite from Armadiel, or it is the spirit that's working right underneath him in the, what's it called, in the hierarchy of the angelic hierarchy. But obviously these aren't in the angels of the 72 angels. It's also not in the 72 demons. So it's really up in the air about where it actually is. But looks like Yasmin pulled up something on her computer. You want to go share about it?
This is what I was talking about already. So there you go.
Yeah, so we have it up on the screen. This is the actual pages of the 6th and 7th book of Moses, where we can see that verbatim. I mean, it's the symbolism is right there, just like how it is in the Wealth Magic, and you right down to the the content, the general citation of Moses on all spirits, and then those word of powers, just like she was talking about. And then this is basically what we were discussing a little bit earlier. That's awesome. It's awesome we found a reference to the the basis of where this whole ritual came from.
And if you look right under the talisman, do you see those words? Those are the words of power and the thing.
Yeah, from what I know about words of power, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and it says up there that these are high and powerful utterances of Moses that he, maybe you already said this, Yasmin, but that he employed on the awakening of the Leviathan. So it could just be, if Moses used this almost as a calling in a different sense. So kind of has evolved or shifted or transformed into this ritual, but to kind of get the same result, to work as a communication device, essentially, or a connection device, connection tool. But
Bluetooth.
yeah, there you go. Bluetooth.
Yeah. Interesting perspective on that.
I love how the characters on the right side, according to this document here, says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is God alone," and that sounds like that almost sounds like the meaning of Ehyeh Asher Yeh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Which
very
is, I
good
think,
point.
there is only God, but yeah, and I that like is very similar to some of the other like some of the other sorry, the ritual the ritual to root power in the Demons of Magic essentially kind of has that language built into into the ritual itself. So very interesting. So I mean, in general, I think we can reasonably say that this initial talisman provided by the Gallery of Magic that you're supposed to gaze at before you call Calvarnia is essentially just sort of that pre-ritual, that light me up and glow me up type of ritual to basically
Right.
get you ready to command. Moses used this to awaken Leviathan and to put him back into hell. Leviathan was a very strong, powerful, mythological creature that was, essentially used to serve his Lord. And it seems like, we're kind of using this ritual in the same context to conjure and work with Calvania. So, the next talisman is very straightforward. You have you have some geometric figures, all of them very well known. 6-pointed star. We have a square representing, the 4 corners of the earth, and your ritual table or your working table. I think it's very symbolic. Adonai sort of encompassing the entire ritual, and then I believe we have two sigils on top, or sort of vertically in the middle of the square, right? Armadiel, and then I think it's Calvarnia at the bottom. And you're supposed to look at the talisman of Calvarnia, and you're supposed to conjure them according to the words that are given to you in the book. And then you're supposed to speak to Calvarnia as though you can, sense the spirit's presence. And as you're speaking, staring at the symbol of Calvarnia and telling Calvarnia about your poverty and your lack thereof, and describing the transformation that you want to take place. Not necessarily telling Calvarnia how you want it done, but just simply defining how, what you're going through. And then when you're finished, you're supposed to, say the closing words. This honestly, this was one of the greatest rituals at all, especially after coming out of the second ritual. My God, did I really need a moment where I can just have a therapy session?
I just want to point out too, and also going back to the sigil or talisman on that page, it has the Star of David outlining, where the corners of Adonai is. It's essentially the Star of David in the background. And David is Solomon's father. So there's just a little bit more symbolism to go into the whole connection behind the talisman. So, with the two triangular pieces, I don't know, upside down, that creates the Star of David. It's a little bit skewed, but, and I don't think they give any mention of that, but I just kind of realized that and thought that was interesting too. Just symbolism.
Yeah, no, and I think a good point. The six-pointed Star of David, so above, so below. There's a lot of different symbolisms for it, different definitions of what it means. I think there is also a link to the zodiac, or not the zodiac, but essentially back in the days when the ancients studied astronomy. It looked like they were only able to see the 6 planets within, within and so these 6 planets were attributed to having, many different definitions thereof. But 6 was always sort of like the roadmap of the universe, I guess.
And it's half of the zodiac too, so symbolically, divided by 12 is just, I don't know. We could get into the numerology of the numbers too, but that's another topic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you're actually Mars, when you mentioned you have to speak to Calvarnia as if you feel his presence, it's really interesting because you're actually I remember when I did this ritual, both times when I did this ritual, I don't know if I necessarily felt a spirit next to me, but because I'm conjuring up these feelings of forcing myself to act as if the spirit was next to me, I think I had some connection to that spirit. It's almost like a forced connection, but it was a connection nonetheless. Mars, you used the word Bluetooth. It's that's kind of, it's just, you switch it on. And for me anyway, I switched it on, start talking to him, start talking about everything. And in this ritual a little bit later on, it's Damon Brand is actually telling the context of what to talk about. So what he's referring to there is, at its core, fundamentally, it's talking about transmutation. So you're supposed to first talk about poverty that you've experienced. You talk about the average income or whatever, whatever you're not happy with necessarily. And then you immediately talk about how you will celebrate the wealth that Calvarnia brings you when you achieve that wealth or whatever. So you're basically taking the feelings of poverty that you don't want to experience and don't want to experience anymore. And then you're talking, immediately transition into the financial well-being after that. So to me, it's you're just transmuting the poverty feelings into wealthy feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking the word transmutation as well.
It is. That's a very good way to describe it, because, in the end, when you're done, it says you to say, it tells you to say, and I don't want to have any copyright issues here, but it tells you to say, that you let go of your fears, because that, wealth will flow, and you say your sayonara, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that really lines up with what you're talking about, Arjun. It's really credible.
Yeah.
Yes.
So When it comes to Calvarnia, right? Like in the ritual itself, when you're talking to Calvarnia, it's talking about calling the mighty and potent Duke who rules under Armadiel, which is interesting because just a little bit earlier I was kind of questioning where exactly Calvarnia is in the hierarchy, but supposedly he's ruling under Armadiel. But actually, I don't remember seeing Armadiel in the Angels of Magic, the 72 Angels of Magic. So he must be one of the lesser known spirits. So I'm guessing Damon Brand and even the 6th and 7th book of Moses, they really dug deep and like found these hidden angels that's not really talked about. Because Yasmin, you mentioned something about the Goetia, but was this spirit in the Goetia?
Yeah, but not the regular, not the Ars Goetia, the Ars Theurgia.
Yeah, okay. So
that's why, and but hold on, this book is different, and this is not an angel. It is also from the Ars Theurgia, because they always have kings that the other spirits work under. That's how the Theurgia works.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's in any ritual that you ever see, and all those new grimoires is always for let me give one example. Magical attack, the breakup ritual, same thing, call to a king first and then the lesser spirits under. Same in Demons of Deception by Corbin Hargrove, same thing, you call like the duke or king or whatever first, and then you know what I mean, you refer to those lesser spirits. And in where else? I think those two. Yeah, but those for sure. So I guess that's the method for calling them, is always calling the king or the duke first.
Interesting. So there's another parallel that we can draw between yet other sources, and the way that you call on Calvarnia is very similar to the way that you call on the other spirits of those other grimoires, basically.
Yeah. Again, it's because the source is the same. It's the Ars Theurgia. Always,
yeah, exactly.
Like
okay.
They use the spirits of the Ars. Yes, and you call the king or duke first. That's all.
So, I'm curious why the Gallery of Magic decided to use this ritual, to use this. I mean, we probably may not know, but how I mean, we may know because we've done it, right? How this ritual fits in our daily lives. You know, how and performing this ritual, what does it do in our road to wealth?
Yeah. I think maybe this is like the very first money ritual that you actually do in Wealth Magic. So like after the daily practice, and you're supposed to continue doing the daily practice even in the end of this one, it says make sure you're doing this ritual and the daily practice for another 22 days. But first you start off with the daily practice, which is like prep work. Then you go into the first ritual, which is a little bit more prep work, but actual magic. And then ritual 2, which is like foundation changing and foundation clearing. And then you finally get into the first money ritual, which is number 3, the one we're talking about now. So it's almost like you're getting a taste of wealth, or you're getting a taste because Pixie Dust, you mentioned that you were doing this right around the time that you had gotten a new apartment. So it's like the coincidence. I don't think there's a coincidence. I think like you moved into a better living situation, or like an upgrade to what you had. And that coincides with the third ritual. So even though it's not exactly money related, it's financial in the grand scheme of things. So the foundation is being built in ritual 2, 1, and the daily practice. And then here we start with like conjuring and transmuting poverty feelings into wealthy feelings, and getting some capital, or starting to get that money flowing to fund our avenues that we want to use to take wealth to the next level.
Yeah, this ritual really allowed from even like the first real glimpse of what wealth was, in a relative sense to where I was in life, you know, and in my situation. But yes, like moving into the apartment was definitely an improvement. And it'll be interesting because, you know, now I'm doing Wealth Magic a second time, and I'm still just on the first ritual, but my lease is coming up at the end of June right now. So I don't know, I may be on another move like during the second or third rituals, depending on when I get to them and stuff. But yeah, I mean, this one, I just remember so clearly at the time there was I had more income coming in just because with one of my jobs, I was teaching piano lessons. And so the amount of students that I had grew. There was just an influx of students. And this honestly allowed me to go on a trip to New Orleans that like shortly after because I had built up this like cushion kind of wealth for the first, or of money for the first time, and just as like somebody new into like an abundance mindset and magic in general, it wasn't a huge glimpse, like I wasn't a millionaire or anything, but it allowed me to see the potential of like what Ritual 3 alone can do, and then what the whole book together as Wealth Magick can do and is continuing to do, now. And 2 years later, I mean, my perception has grown even more so. But at the beginning, it was really cool to see. And at the time, like you read about the ritual beforehand, or I did, and you're like, okay, well, it says attract more money. But then, when you're in it and doing it and you realize these things are actually happening, it's like, oh, whoa, like this is actually working, I think, but then, and like you said, like coincidence, I kind of stopped believing in coincidences. I truly believe that it's an alignment of the realities merging and just honestly a result of the magic. So yeah, it was just a divine timing, I guess you could say. But yeah, it was definitely kind of propels you forward and keeps you interested, because I think after Ritual 2, depending on what happened, what the outcome was for certain people, I know a lot of people may be hesitant or unmotivated to like continue. I don't know if a lot of people stop after Ritual 2 or something, but Ritual 3 is kind of like a motivator to keep going in a sense too, because you're like, okay, well now we're getting the ball rolling, here we go. So like, what can the rest of this do now? What can I do? So
Right.
yeah, I thought it was a great ritual, and it's short and simple, but very powerful still.
It is. You're right. A lot of people. I've met a lot of folks on the group who are pretty gung ho about starting the book, and then when they get to the second ritual, halfway through it, you don't hear from them, and it's tough. I know. I get it. I've seen it over and over again. It happens, and it's all right. I applaud anyone who can make it through. If you can make it past Ritual 2, the rest of the book is pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. Yeah, I mean, personally, I never had anything positive come out of Ritual 3. I love that, like, you had some great like immediate effects, Pixie. Personally, I didn't really see anything happen to me. That obviously that's not the case today, but at least for me in that moment, it was just like, for me, I was just trying to get done with the book. I mean, I was so fed up after Ritual 2 anyway, that like it was so important that I just got through with this and I was done and I wasn't gonna fail. I remember at the time though that there were some pretty interesting things happening. I was looking at my notes in the daily practice for when I did it, and I remember both times I did Wealth Magick in this particular part of the working, I had some like extra, surprises come, here and there. Like, I was doing real estate, so at the time, I'd have a listing here or something, something would bring in some money, but the amount of problems that I had going on at the time was like surreal. And it was all because of the career that I was in, that like it was really tough to kind of see the wins that I was getting out of this. So, if you're like me, if you were like me at that time and you're doing Ritual 3 and, you're not so lucky to see some immediate results from it, don't be discouraged. Trust me, it works. You just gotta like, for someone like me, like my life was just so messed up that, the spirits, I guess they just had to work overtime to get the money to flow into my life. But, You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, that's true. Like, it's going to be different for everybody. And I mean, with this one, it wasn't as though the ritual or the money flow, it wasn't necessarily consistent, like from then until now or something. You know, like after this ritual, there were other fluxes of just change, or like whether it was different jobs or dealing with something. And my living situation at the time wasn't ideal, so like honestly moving into the apartment was kind of like the peak of it. But I don't really think it was. There were also other things going on. Like there were also, I wasn't necessarily like grateful every day for like the wealth that I was feeling. I had to look for it harder. But this ritual kind of helped bring that to light and made it clearer, like what was happening that was good and positive for like from a financial standpoint and everything. But it wasn't just like an overwhelmingly positive result or anything. It was noticeable, thankfully. But it may not be. But that being said, you're still only on the third ritual and you're not done with the book. So, the results are still yet to manifest, mainly.
Right, yeah.
But it was just kind of, like I said, the first glimpse of what was to come, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, it also, it wasn't, I mean, it was like taking a deep breath after ritual 2, but it was an improvement. Things worked out a little better, but I was all over not in a great situation during that time. But it was an improvement to ritual 2 during that time, for sure. I remember.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a big improvement from Ritual 2. Ritual 2 was very the energy was almost intoxicating. And
Right, yeah.
like I remember like waking up every day like what just felt like this gray cloud over me, and like it wasn't necessarily a bad feeling, but it's just like, oh my God, another day. you know? And like the funniest thing was that after I finished Ritual 2, those feelings immediately dissipated. And what we had here with Ritual 3 was literally what it suggests in the book. It was super, super low key. I get the same feeling every time I invite a spirit in my presence. And, I usually get, the hair standing, I start to get some ringing in my ears.
Right.
I feel the presence. I can feel a presence, and the presence was very inviting, super chill, almost as if very open and willing to just participate in the ritual, in the conversation.
Yeah, I remember feeling slight presences, and I took notes. It was always very subtle and kind of like Arjuna said earlier, where, because you're thinking about it and imagining that, or speaking to the Duke, even if you can't feel him, like he is there, and so that probably did kind of almost like magnetize your thoughts a little bit more to pulling yourself closer to the spirit possibly. But I mean, I didn't always feel something, but there were times where I'll get like a pressure in my ear, or the ears ringing too, or hair stand. That happens to me too. Yeah, but just slight, and not bad energy by any means either.
Yeah, I was surprised because I couldn't remember that well how I felt these spirits, and especially Calvarnia. And I did the ritual earlier just to be, to know exactly when we talk about how it was to do it, because it's years ago. And I actually strongly felt him. I was surprised. I did not remember that. But, that also always has to do with your mind and how deep you are in whatever meditative state, you know what I mean?
True.
like if you do rituals more like in between things and you are not very like relaxed and stuff, you're going to feel the spirits less as normal. But I actually felt him quite a lot
Nice. Maybe he
today.
knew that we were going to be talking about him tonight.
Yes, I just looked at sorry, like while we're doing this, I looked on my Coinbase account and I saw 3 6s. Like that was
Nice.
There
weird.
you go. No such thing as a coincidence.
Right.
That's crazy.
Definitely not. That's
Just-
another thing too. I wanted to say, and I think it probably starts right around ritual 2. But the numerology, guys, come on. I mean, was it happening to you or is it just me?
Oh, me too, for sure.
Ever
It
since-
happens to me a lot in general, yeah.
Yeah, ever since around that time, ever since I started doing Wealth Magic, I've been seeing numbers, repeating numbers over and over and over again to this day. Even my wife sees numbers to this day, and we always talk about how it's like definitely got to be like some sign or some symbols of the universe trying to communicate with us in the language that we speak.
Definitely.
Yes, no, and the craziest part is, and after you finish Wealth Magic, like the universe tries to communicate with you exactly how you're saying, right? Through numerology to try to get your attention to wake up and say, hey, there are opportunities that are going on that you need to take advantage of to improve your wealth. Like, I can't tell you, like, I've got some personal milestones happening in my life, and I choose not to discuss that over YouTube, but essentially these are really, really big milestones that I only achieved through Wealth Magic, guarantee. And I mean, like, they're such monumental milestones because not only were they things that I told, some of these spirits about, especially Calvarnia in this ritual, about when about my poverty and about what I wanted to do with my wealth, but it's manifesting, and the craziest thing is that every single time, like, I look at the clock or I look at a license plate or I look at anything, like even right now I'm looking at the clock and my clock says it's 10:33.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's amazing. I can't even, there's no way around it. It's like everywhere. The numerology is crazy. If you guys see the numerology, if you're listening and you're kind of going through this book and you see the numerology, take that as a very good sign. Not only are there opportunities that you should be looking into, but it's a confirmation by the universe that the universe is with you.
Absolutely.
Right.
And signs that the magic is working.
Yeah, it's subtle, but I love when stuff like that happens. License plates stand out to me a lot, usually. I mean, and clocks, but I don't know. Sometimes whenever I see a 666 license plate, it's also very amusing, kind of. Nice.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So is there any last minute things you guys want to touch on before we close it out?
No, I think this was great. This was longer and deeper than we thought, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm really grateful I get to have a nice Sunday night with my friends. We're recording this on Sunday. Don't know when it's going to be released, but it's awesome to just sit here, talk about magic and talk about our experiences over this Wealth Magic, and something that some of us have done a long time ago. Some of us are doing right now, again, for the second time. So it's like really cool to get together with you guys, talk about this stuff and share our experience and knowledge with the whole world and people who are prospectively looking forward to doing this or are retroactively seeking to confirm their own experiences or just know a little bit deeper about what they did in the first place. So appreciate all three of you, Mars, Pixie, and Yasmin, for hopping on, taking the time out of your day to be here and to be sharing your experience. So with all that being said, thank you guys and thank you for listening. So we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Bye.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.